Hello, welcome back to the land of the dead. Today we're going to do the pen review that I promised like a month ago. There's a couple different categories, but we're just going to start off with people who write a lot. So that would be students or like working professionals, but they don't have any need to draw. First best pen I would recommend is this Sharpie S Gel. You can get them for pretty cheap. I think this one was like $1.50 at Staples or something the other day. Fantastic lines. I mean, you can color in all day, but they don't run out. I mean, they're Sharpies. You can write with them forever, right? Come in blue. They come in black. I think they come in red. I would stay with the blue or the black if you're a student or a working professional. Those are the two colors that work for legal documents as well as Scantrons. You don't really need anything else if you're a teacher. Obviously, you can go with black. Additional writing pens that I would recommend would be the Pilot G2. What is this? The 7 mil. It's all right. I mean, I'm not a super big fan of pilots. I feel like when you're drawing with them, like this is the roller ball, right? There's so much downward pressure that you have to exert that the paper ends up buckling, and it feels like you're resisting the kind of the natural grain of the paper. So I'm not a huge fan of pilots. The Uniballs, they write similarly, but something about the construction, I don't get that divot feeling that I do with the pilots. It feels like the ball kind of sits on top of the paper more, and it's more of a lateral pressure that's being exerted. I don't really know. They have the same color ink. I feel like the Uniball, you can get softer color with it, but if you're just writing all the time, no, it's not a super big deal. These are all kind of dying, so don't pay too much attention to the ink flow. A lot of the time, they're just going to be kind of indistinguishable. The Zebra is kind of a different tale. So this pen does do soft work a little bit better. If it wasn't dead, see, here we go. You can see I can shade much better with this pen than some of the other ones. It has a tighter rolling pattern, but when you have to put down, some nice colors or a thicker line, it can still do that. Moving on, we have marking pens. So obviously everyone is familiar with the Sharpies. I don't know how many of you have seen a brush Sharpie. These are a lot of fun to use. But not really for me. I don't think they're super practical unless that is your style. The Milwaukee Inksol, I think is called. Fine point Inksol, yeah. This is fantastic. It's got a very fine, well, it comes with a fine point, but if you use it enough, that fine point kind of disappears. Same as a Sharpie, but I found that they're easier to use when you're working because of the red body. They show up more often. I would say the most used Sharpie I have is the fine point. These are great when you're drawing or when you're marking because you can do kind of cross-hatching styles. But they don't take up so much big space that they're actually easy to use. Next is pens, I would say, that are good for drawing. So these are not sketching pens. These are like professional or semi-professional drawing pens. The first one is the Pigma Micron. The Pigma series is fantastic. I have another Pigma pen here. But these have archival ink. And what that means is that as the ink ages, it doesn't change color, which is important for graphic design. It's important for fine art. If you're doing a big marker piece, you don't want the page to discolor or the ink to discolor as it ages. So if you look at something, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, it's not a totally different thing. This is the 0.8. I would recommend the 0.8 or the 0.7 for almost everyone, regardless of what you do. It also comes in various sizes. This is the 0.2. 0.2 is a lot of fun. It's great for blocking in kind of larger areas. I wouldn't say it's a shading pen so much as a inking and shadow pen. This is good for comic books, illustrations, professional work where longevity is important. This is a Muji pen. You can't tell because I probably ripped the label off someday in class. But it's a very, very nice writing pen. This feels like the 0.4, I think, or the 0.5. I can't remember what sizes they come in. The Japanese brand, very, very nice pens. A little pricey, but I would say if you draw more than once a month, it's worth the investment just to feel it once. They feel like glass. I don't know how to describe it. They're the same rollerball feature as in the pilots and the zebras and the other pens, but something about it just feels like the more you push down, the more they push back up. It's a fantastic pen. You don't get a lot of varied line weights like you will in some of the other pens I have to show you, but it's a very pleasant, kind of enjoyable and fun writing experience. Very, very good for cross-hatching. So let's talk about drawing and sketching pens. So this is pens that you're like doodling in a notebook with. First one is going to be the Bic. I mean, these are staples, right? You can't beat a Bic for, I would just say, price value. You can get a box of them for like 3 cents at almost any store. They're at Target, CVS, Staples, Walgreens. Or you could probably buy them in a bathroom if you looked hard enough. They get very nice flow when you're doing fine line work, so you can shade with them, but you can also kind of put more pressure, very little pressure, I would say maybe a 3 or 4 out of 10, and still get a thick black line, which is important. So these are more hybrids, I would say, the Bic pens. They're a lot of fun. They're very cheap. They're easy to kind of like throw in a bag or fill a bag up with. I mean, we can sketch all day with these, and it's nice because they always tell you how full the reservoir is. I don't think it's worth buying like a Bic pen holder. There's some like pen blanks, I would say, that are more enjoyable to use than the standard pens. But the Bics are so cheap and they're so easy to write with. I would just say buy a Bic, draw with it until it's empty, and then move on. The only thing that comes close to the Bic is the Statler in feeling. And these feel like, I would say, like a double H pencil. Very, very soft on the page. You need to be a little more firm when you want a darker tone. But you can shade with these all day. They act like pencils more than anything else. But if you need, you can still sign. The final pens I'm going to show you before, actually, I'm going to cover this first. This is a Prismacolor marker, but I would classify it as a pen simply because we have the fat wedge like a Sharpie, and we have the fine point tip, kind of like the Inkzol. I use these a lot in woodworking and film projects simply because they show up on everything. Okay, the final two pens now are kind of new to me. This is the Lamy Safari fountain pen. It's a fun pen. I'm not super used to it yet, but it feels like cutting onions, I would say. Not that it makes me cry, but that it is super tactile. You can see just like how much ink is coming out, just like, ooh, it's pouring out. The one thing I'm not super used to yet is, since this is a fine point nib, a lot of times when I'm drawing, I feel like as I'm putting pressure in, the paper curls up and I get like this nib of paper that gets stuck in the tip of the fountain pen here. So if we have the body of the pen coming out like that, I feel like I get nibs of paper stuck in the very tip. Not super great, but there's worse things in life. Next, we have the classic Balakakuno. This is my first introduction to fountain pens, and I think it's a fantastic pen. I have it in black ink, but it's very similar to the Lamy. Much, much cheaper. I think it was like $8 or $10 from the calligraphy shop that I bought it from. Kind of has the same problem with picking things up and like the nib, but this is a medium nib. I write all my letters with this. Let's see, we have the signatures. There's a lot of character in this pen. It makes like writing feel sexy almost, and you can kind of draw whatever, you know. It's a pen, but it's a very, very like positive experience because it's so much fun to write with, you know. Like, you never bust out a fountain pen just because, right? You're always doing something with it. So that's the pen review. If you're a Joe Schmo and you write a lot, but it's not super important, Sharpie S Gel. If you do sketching and you're not a professional artist, the Bics. If you are a professional artist, I would say Bics and Microns, or Bics, Microns, and Mujis. I don't know why I'm spinning this for you. There is no label. If you're a calligraphy nerd, or you're becoming one like I am, fountain pens. They're a lot of fun. I would say stay away from the Lamy so far. Get something very cheap like this Pilot. It takes the regular Pilot refills. I've got a box of them. The 20 refills for like $4 or $5. That's months of writing for me. So Pilot Kakuno would be like the good fountain pen. But if you want something crazy that you're never gonna lose, Shout out to Ian for giving this to me. I would just say this is the Milwaukee Inkstall. And with that, thank you for watching. This is Chris Haley signing out.